Hey, I'm Josh.
And I'm Sam. Welcome back to Star Wars Deep Digging. It's been a long time since we've done one of these episodes, and it might be longer still. I'll explain that later.
But let's be honest, and I'm not guilt tripping anyone here, none of you have watched this far yet. Like, trust me. The average viewer probably hasn't made it past episode 6, much less all the way to. Pretty sure we're at 19 now.
What can I say? It's a long book.
Alright. So, I got a bit of a headache, but I'm gonna do my best. Time of Death by Cavan Scott. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I am dead. I know how that sounds. Crazy old Ben with his crazy old stories. But this isn't crazy. This is happening. At least I think it is. Yeah, now we get to the part where the ambiguity of how the afterlife works is completely destroyed, which bothers a lot of fans. It does not bother me. 1 minute I am standing in the heart of the Empire's new battle station, facing the man who, for good or ill, has defined the last 30 years of my life. I close my eyes and wait, hearing the sweep of his lightsaber hands. And what? What happens next? If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can ever imagine. Did I say those words? Did I believe them? I have no idea. Not anymore. And cue snarky comments about how, being a ghost isn't really all that powerful, blah blah blah. You've all heard the parodies. See, the parodies. It happens over and over again. I close my eyes, waiting for the inevitable. I hear the rasp of Vader's breath, the creak of his armor, the scream of the lightsaber. I feel the searing pain in my side. I scream saber pain. I scream saber pain. I scream saber. I sit up, crying out in the stillness of the room. I'm not where I was. The battle station, the troopers, even Vader, they're all gone, as if they never existed. I am home, perched on the poor stone slab that has served as a bed for nearly 20 years. 19 years to be exact. Where's my mattress? I glance around the cramped room. Everything is as it should be, although some of the more recent additions are missing.
Oh yeah, about that repeated quote. There's also this one: force, lightning, blast, pain, and then the guy who founded the Rebel Alliance wakes up in the afterlife. That is until the creators decided to force him back into a sequel.
That was a clone.
Yeah.
The wooden chair that I built from Japor wood. Japor stupid reference. The set of clay bowls scavenged from a deserted Jawa caravan. The humidifier purchased from Watto at a highly inflated price, I should add. Okay, so we know Lotto was at least alive for that long.
Oh yeah, about the Japor snippet, that's not the only artifact Padme had that Anakin pretty much gave her. Anakin pretty much had C-3PO deliver his old Padawan braid to Padme.
Yeah, keeping a lock of your husband's hair. I'm just gonna say it, that's weird. Like, I was trying to be polite, but nope, that is weird. Have I been robbed? No, this is how the HUD looked in the early days of my exile when I still etched a calendar.
Actually, that made me think of something else. Anakin as a loaf cat bringing Padme a dead rat.
Oh, come on. Even as a loaf cat, Anakin would be really strong. It would have to be at least a womp rat. Have I been robbed? No, this is how the HUD looked in the early days of my exile when I still arched a calendar of sorts into the wall above my bed to mark the passage of time. I run my hand across the pitted surface. 3 years scored into the stone. Okay, so the date at which Watto is technically still alive, 16 BBY. I'd found the old prospector's hut perched high on a windswept bluff, and it was empty, long since abandoned. But I knew immediately that it would serve me well. The walls were solid, the roof sound, and the caves beneath the cellar an ideal place for meditation and training. Most important, it was remote, surrounded by a vast sea of dunes. I would be left alone. I swing my legs onto the rough stone floor. That's when I realize I don't ache. For the first time in years, my body doesn't complain when I push myself from the bed. Well, okay, man, at this point in the timeline, you're only in, 39? No, it wouldn't be. 41. Sorry. Brain is not braining. Math is not mathing. I look down at my hands. They're the hands of a much younger man. They don't shake, they don't tremble. The skin is supple, tan, but not yet discolored by the twin sun's constant glare. I flex my fingers, expecting to hear the creak of rheumatic joints. Nothing. The fingers are strong. One might even suggest dexterous. Wonder how high his dexterity stat is.
What about the Jedi that Obi-Wan disrespected on Tatooine? Hopefully that's not going to come back to bite the galaxy.
A Shardhead is no Jedi. At least he wasn't at this point. I run them through my beard. A thought occurred to me. I rush through to the back of the modest dwelling, past the stove and pantry to the tarnished mirror hanging on the far wall. The face in the glass is largely free of lines, the skin smooth. The tousled shock of hair is thick, only the beard betraying a smattering of gray. The world lurches. I throw a hand against the wall to steady myself. This is the past. The mattress, the chair, the bowls, and the humidifier, they're not missing. They just haven't arrived yet. Well, it took you long enough to figure it out. Sorry, it's just, as a sci-fi reader, more used to the concept of time travel, and, But this isn't even that. This is my whole life flash before my eyes thing, except with more force. You should have seen this coming. I pitch forward, falling into the swirling circle of my death. I scream, saber, pain. I scream, saber, pain. I scream, saber, pain. But this time there's more. So much more. Or a newborn baby cradled in my arms, wailing as his mother breathes her last. Revenge of the Sith. Qui-Gon sinking to his knees, smoke rising from the jagged hole in his gut. Phantom Menace.
Actually, something similar happened at the very end of the Force Unleashed book. Starkiller's entire life flashed before his eyes. Specific quotes, specific characters. Shaak Ti saying the Sith betray one another, but you'll learn that soon enough. Coda saying, Vader won't always be your master, I sense only me. Then Vader and Palpatine saying he is dead, then he is more powerful than ever.
Yep. We're gonna get to that one eventually, but we've got a lot of stuff to go through first. Eyes that once looked on me as a brother corrupted by the dark side, burning yellow with hate. Revenge of the Sith. Maul's pyre raging beneath the desert sky. Ooh, a Rebels reference. Wasn't expecting that. A severed arm twitching by the light of my saber. Okay, New Hope. Empty robe stumbling to the floor. Also New Hope. A voice calling my name. Well, that could be just about anything. I scream, saber, pain. I scream, saber. I sit up, gasping for air. I'm back on the bed, dust motes dancing in the light that streams through the hut's narrow windows. My vision blurs, and I am in the temple on Coruscant, the way it was long before Palpatine made a mockery of these hallowed halls. Oh, right, the whole Jedi Temple is the new Imperial Palace thing had already been established at this point. I always forget about that. It does not come up as often as you would think.
Mm-hmm. Also, what about Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi friend two other most important Jedi besides Anakin, according to Obi-Wan, Ciri and Ferris. Well, Ciri's dead, died long ago, and Ferris, we don't know where Ferris is.
Ciri Tachi has actually been confirmed as canon.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you all about it when we're done. But as for Ferris, I guess he would be pretty easy to work back in. He would probably be less important in the new canon, but, wouldn't be that hard to recanonize him.
Yeah, actually I'd say Ferris would still be important in canon, but he'd just be overshadowed by Ahsoka. It's Ahsoka, people.
Yoda stares at me across the chamber, a wry smile creasing that ancient face. For everything, a reason there is. Do you think that's actually Yoda or just the Force cosplaying as Yoda, like it did with the Grand Inquisitor?
Probably. No, I think Yoda's No, I think it's probably the Force.
Yeah, probably. But why here, I yell as I slide back to the sun-beaten hut. Why now? There is no answer, and I sit on the edge of the bed, trying to remember what happened when I first lived this morning. I look down, seeing a ghost of my younger self twisting and turning on the slab, caught in a nightmare. He moans, he whimpers, he sits bolt upright, a single word on his lips as he wakes. A single name. Luke! And then I am alone again. I know what day this is. I recognize the knot in the pit of my stomach, the sense of foreboding that makes my skin crawl. Luke is in danger. Something is about to happen that will change everything. Go to him, urges a voice inside my head. Yes, master, I reply, shielding my hands as I barrel into sunlight. Light. Qui-Gon cameo. Nita is waiting for me, lounging beneath a makeshift shelter, animal skin stretched taut across a rickety frame. And Yobi cameo. The structure will remain long after the poor thing dies of old age, the tattered cover keeping me awake at night as it flaps incessantly in the wind. Then one morning it will be gone, ripped from the side of the house by a desert storm. But that hasn't happened yet. My trusty if-cantanker, Yobi, is alive and well, snuffling around in the dirt, foraging for roots it's in the scorched ground. I have an overwhelming urge to throw my arms around her, but Nita regards me with her usual disdain. A surly snort, her only greeting before she resumes the fruitless search for sustenance. Quite right, just as it should be, but for now her breakfast needs to wait. She doesn't complain as I tighten the cracked leathered straps around her middle, ignoring me completely as I hoist myself onto the saddle. Come on, old girl, let's go. I pull on the reins, gently jabbing my heels into her flank when she still doesn't respond. Finally, she grunts and begrudgingly obliges, picking up the pace as we trot down the winding path to the valley beneath. Soon we are charging across the salt flats, Nita snorting as I push her harder than ever before. Her broad feet pound the sand, rushing past bone-white skeletons picked clean by the claw condors. Claw condors? That sounds familiar. I'll check that later. I imagine a cavalcade of scenarios, each more terrible than the last. Is it the Sand People? Owen can handle Tusken Raiders as well as anyone on the waste, but the Nomads have a special reason to hate his family, a grudge still not forgotten and far from forgiven. Your uncle can hold off a whole colony of Sand People with one blaster. Have they finally taken their revenge? The sins of the father visited upon the son? Wait, so... Yeah, the Tuskens have figured out that Luke is Anakin's kid. I think that was in Hor's backstory. By the way, that's Hor as in H-O-A-R, not W-H-O-R-E. Get your minds out of the gutter.
Also, actually, the same people celebrate Anakin. They do this ceremony where they imitate a buzzing lightsaber sound.
Ooh, a cult that worships Darth Vader. That's just original trilogy fans in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's in Tatooine Ghost.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the comics. Remember that one? The one with the cult of sand people that worship Darth Vader.
There's a cult of sand people that worship Darth Vader.
Oh, you haven't read the comics in a while. Well, we know where to find them when we need them. I tighten my grip on Nita's reins, urging her on. Of course, there are other terrors on Tatooine. The loathsome clump of blubber that is Jabba the Hutt, for one. Owen is a proud man. He's likely to fight rather than pay the protection money Jabba demands of his neighbors.
Yeah, also, if Obi-Wan's talking about the sins of the fathers weigh heavily on the son, well, wait until Luke Skywalker goes to Jabin.
Oh. Yeah, Luke's probably gonna have to spend the rest of his life cleaning up Anakin's messes. Leia would too, but she can't be bothered. It's like... Owen is a proud man.
And I don't think Anakin's the only one. The Jedi Revan who became Darth Revan and later Revan is going to have to... the Jedi Revan's going to have to clean up the messes he made as Darth Revan.
Well, that's not a sense of the father situation, because it's literally the same person. It's an amnesia problem.
Yeah, that I'd call sins of the self.
Sins of the self, I like it. I'm going to use that. Owen is a proud man. He's likely to fight rather than pay the protection money Jabba demands of his neighbors. Surely Owen wouldn't be that stupid after what he's promised. Now Owen knows when to fight his battles. But what if the threat comes not from Tatooine at all, but from the stars above?
Or when to sass Obi-Wan.
Yep. Gangsters and raiders are one thing, but the Empire is another. No one wouldn't stand a chance against a crack squad of Imperial troopers. Is a dropship already plummeting through Tatooine's thin atmosphere? Are my worst fears about to be realized? I mean, when you think about it, Owen and Beru had blasters. They probably could have taken a few stormtroopers down with them if they hadn't been caught by surprise.
But those blasters wouldn't have worked against the third sister when she came.
Well, yeah, but it's not like they were dealing with Force users with the stormtroopers who eventually showed up to kill them all. I mean, maybe heavy artillery, but something had to do that much damage to the farm. I imagine sand crunching beneath heavy black boots, a dark cape billowing in the desert squall, the mechanical wheeze of a respirator. And then I am back on the battle station. Vader is waiting for me in the corridor ahead, standing in silence, his lightsaber already pulsing red. He knew I was coming, that I was on board his engine of destruction. He had no part in this, man. Does he know what I've done? Have all my efforts been for naught? Why won't he say anything as motionless as a statue? 19 years. 19 years since I left him to die. 19 years of reliving his corruption every night in my dreams. Yeah, it's hard to fit this in with the stuff that happened in the Kenobi show, but it's not explicitly contradicted. What does he look like under that mask? What does he see through those ruby lenses? Vader's eyes aren't red, right?
No, that's just how it looks in the mask.
Okay. A friend? An enemy? A relic? He appears so calm, so controlled, but I can feel his rage, seething like the perdition nebula beneath the heartless faceplate. His fury threatens to overwhelm him, just as it always did, but he keeps it in check. I can't help but be impressed. The Emperor has taught my former Padawan well. I can only imagine the poison that has spilled from Palpatine's lips since Mustafar. Savor your hatred, my apprentice. Nurture it. Let it empower you. Let it bring you strength. Yeah, that is a pretty good Palpatine impression. Good job, Obi-Wan. I always knew this day would come. I just didn't know where or when. I certainly never imagined it would be in a place like this, on a planet killer the likes of which the galaxy has never seen. 1,000,000 voices cry out as one, washing over me, their pain my own. Finally, Vader steps forward to meet me. My lightsaber ignites, the vibration of the power cell rising up my arm. I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The voice is unrecognizable. How little of my friend is left. Another memory assaults me. A woman lying on a bed, her breath shallow. There's good in him. Did she really believe that after everything he had done? If she did, wouldn't she still be here? Wouldn't she have lived? What would she think of him now? Yeah, that's the best kind of what if. The one where Padme lives, but Anakin is still Vader.
We need a Star Wars What If spin-off.
Never gonna happen, but... well, I suppose there's always fanfiction. No, my friend is dead. Of that I am certain. The thing in front of me is not Anakin Skywalker. The circle is now complete. The Emperor declares his arrogance the final betrayal. When I left you, I was but the learner. When I left you, every word is a trigger dragging me back and forth through the years. I'm standing on loose scree, a river of molten lava churning below. Is this where you left me, Darth? Or was it even earlier, when you leapt onto a speeder bike and raced into the night? Or when you held Padme by the throat? Wait, leapt into a speeder bike and raced into the night. Is he talking about what happened in Attack of the Clones? Obi-Wan, you weren't there. Did Padme tell you all that? Did Owen? Anyways. I feel my own anger rising, my years of training, of discipline ebbing away. I barely hear what he said. Now I am the master. His image flickers like a disrupted holofeed. 1 second, he is the armored giant I see before me. The next, a charred husk reaching out on a carbonized shore. Ooh, that would make for a good horror movie shot. One face impassive and angular, the other blackened and screaming in agony. Then there are more joining the fluctuating cycle. fresh-faced teen eager to take up the mantle of a Jedi, a spirited slave boy pulling grime-ridden goggles over innocent eyes, a limbless wreck hanging in a bacta tank, necrotic skin pallid and scarred. Oh yeah, so we've covered the entire prequel trilogy and even Rogue One at this point, so good job, Anakins. I see them all at once, everything he was and everything he has become. But not everything he will be. Only a master of evil, Darth. I cannot use his real name. It would undo me even after all this time catching in my throat. Ah, yeah. They're gonna be explaining away the whole Darth was originally Vader's first name before it was retconned as a title thing forever. The time for talk is at an end. This must be decided once and for all. I strike first, our lightsabers flaring as they clash. The sudden illumination draws another shadow of Coruscant.
According to galactic history, Darth has always been a title.
Anakin railing against the wooden sticks I force him to use rather than energy weapons. I mean, the etymology of the word Darth is an inconsistent thing in Star Wars lore and a subject for another day.
Dartha meaning king or emperor. Dartha meaning return from death. All ancient Rakatan words.
But there is some debate over whether it originates from there. All we know is that Reverend Malik definitely weren't the first because of Andeddu.
Yeah. And Andeddu was definitely the first. He was actually the first Darth, and if you want to know the Darth name, you should ask him. In fact, Andeddu's still alive.
Technically.
Yeah. He's alive, but unconscious in his own tomb.
Because he put his soul in a holocron. That feels like cheating to me.
Yeah, and Andeddu was always one to cheat death.
Indeed. Draws another shadow of Coruscant, Anakin railing against the wooden sticks I force him to use rather than energy weapons. I am not a child anymore, Obi-Wan. Why must we use toys? That is not how Anakin talked at all. Oh. You must be patient, my young Padawan. This is but the first step. We have time. But, yeah. Sticks for training was a tradition long before Rebels introduced it, and long before it got brought back in Ahsoka. Not anymore.
Sticks for training, I didn't really see any of that in the Old Republic era, so must have been more recent.
I mean, they technically used sticks. Back then, it's just vibro sticks.
The high-tech ones from the Old Republic. Man, they should have really kept those.
Yep. I mean, I guess wood is technically safer. Not anymore. I sweep down and he blocks, anticipating the attack. Our blades hold, energy fields discharging as they grind against each other. I see my face distorted in the reflective surface of his helmets. Old, tired, nearing the ends. You're only 57, buddy. He's holding back, testing my limits. He wants to know how much time has diminished my abilities. I'm doing the same with him, exploring whether cybernetic joints move as smoothly as muscle honed from years of training. Perhaps we are more alike than I care to think. Now he takes control, the blows coming faster and harder. I'm forced to deck, his lightsaber tracing a gleaming line down the middle wall. Sparks rain down and I blink long enough for the torment to begin anew. Eyes, scream, saber, pain, Anakin, Padme, Qui-Gon, Maul. Aw, he puts Maul up there with Anakin, Padme, and Qui-Gon. That's sweet.
Yeah, I think Obi-Wan pretty much. I think Obi-Wan pretty much accepted Maul as part of his life after killing him.
They're best frenemies. They like disliking one another. They're okay. I'm not gonna sing the whole song. I doubt I'd remember it anyway. I'm back on Tatooine, Nita wheezing after her exertion. It's taken so long to cross the flats, the sun's now high in the sky. Not for the first time, I cursed my decision to settle so far from the moisture farm. What was I thinking? Another shift, another memory, standing at Owen's door, explaining what has happened, asking for the stranger's help. He makes his terms abundantly clear. We'll take him in, but you'll play no part in his upbringing. If you have to stay on Tatooine, you keep your distance, do you hear? You neither see the boy nor speak to him. He must know nothing about his father. Yeah. Good reminder that Owen Lars is the most consistent character between the two continuities. He will always be a grumpy, overprotective old man. Well, okay, he's probably not that old, but still. Nita grunts as I pull her to a stop. The farm is ahead, its dome the only landmark for kilometers around. All is as it should be. There is no evidence of blaster fire, no dark plumes of smoke billowing into the air. I allow my shoulders to relax. Perhaps I'm mistaken. Perhaps Luke isn't in danger at all. Nita grumbles, tossing her head to dislodge the sandflies that have settled in her long eyelashes. As I pat her neck, calming her, scanning my eyes along the ring of environmental sensors and motion detectors that form a protective border around the boy's adapted home. There he is, sitting cross-legged next to a moisture evaporator. He's hunched over in the sand, playing with a toy that I can't make me out at this distance. I can guess what it is, the latest in a long line of model spaceships. I wonder if Obi-Wan knows where they come from, who it is that leaves them next to Shmi's sand-blasted tombstone for Beru to find. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Also, R.I.P. Shmi. You were very underrated. Still up. As I sit here watching Luke sweep the wooden fighter through the air, I think of the toy Corvette I am building in my workshop. It is almost complete. By the way, Corvette, not as in the car, it's named after the wooden sailing ship, because it's a spaceship. Just in case anyone was curious about that. It is almost complete. I am particularly pleased with the ion engines. My finest work yet. Even now, at just 3 years old, it is obvious that Luke longs to fly. It is like seeing Anakin all over again. The mop of unruly blonde hair, the bright blue eyes, the hands permanently tinkering. Luke isn't content to just play with his toys. He's constantly at work modifying them, making improvements. So much like his father. Your powers are weak, old man. Our lightsabers clash. I try to push forward only to be thrust violently back. It's like striking iron. There's no give in Vader's arms, and far too much in mine. You can't win, Darth. He barely reacts to the jibe, knowing all too well that I am aiming to provoke him, turn his anger against him. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. I scream, saber, pain. I scream, saber, pain. I scream, saber, pain. Is this power? This torture? I am like a leaf tossed in a storm, the present and the past crashing together. I can no longer tell what is real and what is a distant memory brought into sharp relief.
Actually, the guy who founded the Rebel Alliance also made a jab at Vader. He said, "Without me, you will never be free."
You know, you can just call him Galen Merrick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Galen. Yeah, he said, "Without me, you'll never be free."
Luke is safe. Luke is in danger. I am on Tatooine. I am on the battle station. It shouldn't be like this. This is not what Yoda promised me. I am being overwhelmed. The past, the present, even the future. I see things that are not yet to be. Leia slumped beside a console are heartbreaking. Captain Solo falling so very far. Evil triumphant and then vanquished and then rising again. And that's Force Awakens references. Yet more of that world between worlds. Everything is predestined. Now alternate timeline stuff.
Let's just say the galaxy is a cycle. Ever since the Old Republic, we've had a story. And that story repeats again, and again, and again, and again.
Alright, we get the picture, Kreia. And worst of all, Luke, as I am now an old man, his face creased, his eyes haunted, he's cut off from those who love him, consumed by regrets and sorrow. It is too much to bear, a future I never want to see. The raucous wail of a siren snaps me back to the past. All sirens? Yuck. My eyes dart from Luke to the invaders who have tripped the motion detectors. They wear a hodgepodge of body armor and animal skins. Their band comprising at least half a dozen different species. You can just say 6. There has been talk of bandits operating from Mos Eisley, plundering farms and settlements in the area. leaving only devastation and grief. Why hadn't I listened to the rumors? Why didn't I intervene before it was too late? I am a Jedi. Was a Jedi. Will be again. Beru calls for her nephew, but there is nowhere for Luke to run. If he tries to return to the dome, he will die. If he makes for the caverns across the flats, he will die. My other lives are forgotten in an instant. The betrayal of the past, the fight that is to come, all that matters is the here and now. Nita charges forward, my hand snatching for the lightsaber on my belt. The blade ignites even as I launch myself from Nita's back, flipping over to land between the startled child and a towering brute wearing Rancor hide. Rancor hide is ridiculously common. Seems like everyone's wearing it. Run, Luke, run! I can't tell if the boy heeds my words. The brute in front of me raises his blaster and I swing, easily deflecting the bolt. The farm is overrun in seconds, the marauders taking up positions both left and right. I spin, blocking blaster fire from all directions. At least I'm not alone in the defense of the farm. Owen joins the fray, battered rifle in hand. There is no time to think, only react. A sinewy hand grabs my shoulder. I whirl, leaving my would-be attacker of his life. My lightsaber dances through the air, my surroundings changing, flickering back and forth as Vader's form shifted before. Is it sand beneath my feet or the metallic deck of the battle station? The bandits advance and Vader gains ground. I am young and I am old. I am here and I am there. I block and parry, attack and retreat. Vader is too strong, the bandits too numerous. The fight is against me twice over. Vader feints to the left and I turn, only to receive a vibro mace to my chest. I skid across on the scans as a gigantic Gamorrean boar lumbers toward me, his blunt weapon raised and ready to strike. Yeah, Gamorreans do... Wait. Vibro mace? Gamorreans wield vibro axes. This is new. This is very new. Before I can even respond, something small and fragile smacks against the Gamorrean's flattened snout. The bemused thug hesitates. It's long enough for my...
Sorry, that just made me think of this. Mace window, axe window, machete window, out the window.
Okay, that's a good one. I roll out of the way as the squealing board crashes down. The bemused thug hesitates long enough for my blade to separate his feet from his ankles. I roll out of the way as the squealing boar crashes down where I lay. Something sharp jabbing into my side. It is the fragments of the toy starfighter that have been tossed at the Gamorrean's head. Luke grabs my hands, attempting to haul me up. He has saved my life, this remarkable child. Luke! Owen yells from across the settlement. Get away! I lay back to my feet, rejoining the fight, which is now ours to win. The tide is turned and the bandits are diminished one by one, decimated by blaster fire and plasma blade. As my last opponent cools at my feet, Luke cries out a warning. A Deveronian... Yep, another of the bad guy species. We just bring a Hauk or a Platoonian in here and we'll have the complete set. Maybe a week wait? Is reared up behind Dylan, ready to bring the butt of his blaster down on the unsuspecting farmer's head. I pull back my arm and throw my lightsaber with all my might. The blade pinwheels through the air, finding its mark. The Deveronian drops, his body split in two. I reach out with the force, extinguishing the lightsaber before drawing the hilt back to my open palm. Luke cheers, running full pelt toward me, arms as wide as his smile. There's a crunch behind me and I turn, Owen's fist burying itself in my nose. I slam down hard onto the ground, the lightsaber skittering from my hands. All my training, all my experience, and a humble moisture farmer has achieved what neither battle droid nor Sith has achieved, knocking me flat on my back. Uncle Owen! Luke cries in confusion as his uncle manhandles the boy toward his aunt before turning to glower at me. Also, I'm pretty sure at least one battle droid or Sith knocked Obi-Wan in his back. Like, that has to have happened at least one time.
Actually, I think it did happen more than once. Maul knocked Obi-Wan on his back a few times when Obi-Wan first realized Maul returned. Although Maul did have help from Savage.
Yeah, and Anakin force pushed him over, and I'm pretty sure...
and actually Grievous did as well on... Yeah, think it was... Yeah, Grievous and Obi-Wan got into a fist fight on Utapau.
Well, okay, technically Grievous isn't a battle droid or a Sith, But yeah, Obi-Wan, you're giving Owen too much credit here. Luke cries in confusion as his uncle manhandles the boy toward his aunt before turning to glower at me. Go, he all but spits, an accusatory finger waiting the furious decree. Get away from here. Haven't you people done enough to this family? Done enough? I spluttered, gingerly inspecting my throbbing nose for signs of blood. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I was trying to protect you. We don't need your protection. We don't need you at all. I could have handled this alone. I always have, and I always will. Owen, please. Please. And I'm staring down the barrel of his rifle. I have no idea how much energy remains in the power pack, and I have no urge to find out. I saw him. Owen hisses through gritted teeth. He tried to save you. My eyes flicked to Luke, now safe in Beru's arms. He's a brave boy. He could have been killed. Honestly, I know this is a dramatic, sad moment, but there's still something so funny to me in that the explanation for why Owen doesn't like having Obi-Wan around is because he thinks that Luke might get killed trying to save Owen's life.
I wonder how Leia's doing. Skip to Alderaan? Hello, Ferris. Hello, Senator Organa. Leia's upstairs, up to the top room to the left. I'm sure you know your way around. Yes, of course, Senator.
I gotta read one of those books sometimes. Anyway, I open my mouth, but no words come. Breathing heavily, Owen lowers his blaster and turns his back on me. I will protect him, he tells me as he walks away. I will keep him safe. I look past Owen's back. Beru catches my eye and shakes her head sadly. She ushers Luke back to the dome, Owen stalking after them. Luke glances back for a moment before all three vanish from sight. I'm left alone with the dead, the sun's beating down on me. Eyes scream saber pain. Eyes scream saber pain. I know why I'm here, why I'm reliving this moment time and time again. This was when I failed Luke, just as I failed his father. I'd always believed, always hoped that Owen's anger would cool toward me, that one day I would be allowed to train young Luke in the ways of the Force. The events of this fateful morning meant that Owen never let me near the boy again. He hadn't just been angry, he'd been scared. Scared of the look we'd both seen in his nephew's eyes. The bravery, the defiance. It's not the first time Luke has done something like this, and it won't be the last. Tatooine's a dangerous place. Anyone who doesn't grow up brave and defiant doesn't grow up at all. We'd seen that look before, in other eyes. You should not have come back, Vader tells me. Reminds me of the age-old debate. Who takes more after which parents? Like Luke. Is Luke more like Anakin or Padme? Is Leia more like Anakin or Padme? Guess it depends on the writer. And of course, the fans have their own preferences and very harsh things to say about what they do not prefer. But that's a story for another time. Vader tells me. You should not have come back, Vader tells me. But
Actually, I think Luke is a lot more like Anakin, a little like Padme. Leia's a lot like Padme, a little like Anakin.
Seems like the obvious answer, but I think there's something deeper there. But that's getting too off topic. My resources are depleted, my body's screaming with pain. I have no hope of winning this fight. He lunges at me, slash and counter slash, stab and riposte. Okay, no hope of winning this fight. So, canonically confirmed that even if Obi-Wan hadn't given up, Vader would still have won. Confirmed. Canonically. Just so it's on record for everyone, because I've seen this debated plenty of times. The air is thick with plasma discharge and lights dancing on the edge of my vision. I'm forced back, neck, muscles burning, breath ragged. The grip of my lightsaber is slick in my hands, my ears ringing. Luke is near. I can feel him. And pray that Vader cannot. I have so much to teach the boy, so much to share. Why did I listen to Owen? Why did I wait too long? Hey, you could have hit out on Alderaan and trained Leia. That was always an option. Haven't you people done enough to this family? Now it's too late. There's no way to prepare Luke for what is to come. I'm leaving it with who? A smuggler and a Wookiee? Even if by some miracle they found Leia, what can they do? They're barely more than children. Oh yeah. It's weird to think that Luke and Leia are canonically 19 at this point. Which also makes the age gap between Leia and Han... No. That is also getting off topic. The rebellion isn't prepared for a weapon of this magnitude. No one is. And it's all my fault. I have failed Luke again. I can't hold on. It is over. Unless... Ben? Luke's cry echoes across the landing bay. There he is, watching us fight. Right. The open hatch of the freighter behind him. He knows full well that I cannot land. He is frozen with shock, unsure what to do, but that won't last long. Soon the spell will be broken and he will come running. Those brave, defiant eyes will be cut down in a blaze of trooper fire. He needs more than a toy fighter this time. He needs to escape, to save himself, not me. Go to him. The voice in my head is louder than it has been for years. Yes, Master. I am an old man. Even if I tried, I couldn't outrun a blaster shot. Not anymore. Wow. The people who make videos talking about how incredibly OP Obi-Wan was at this point in the timeline would hate this short story. The idea that he can't even outrun a blaster bolt? Oh, no. They would not like that. I'll never make it to Luke's side in time to save him. This is where we came in. Amen. I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I am dead. I glance back at Vader and smile. I can't even begin to imagine what he makes of that. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, about that outrunning a blaster rifle thing, one, you can't do that. Two, it's impossible if you're in crosshairs.
Nice one, but you do know that dodging blaster bolts happens all the time. Just look at KOTOR.
Yeah,
You don't
but,
even need force speed for it.
Yeah, but it's crosshair. He never misses.
Okay, that's fair. But blaster bolts aren't usually slow. Probably, slower than bullets. I glance back at Vader and smile. I can't even begin to imagine what he makes of that. It doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is Luke. I straighten my back, closing my eyes as I raise my saber in front of me. I don't see the blade sweeping through the air, barely even hear its whine. I imagine Luke, cross-legged in the sand, playing with a wooden Corvette. Eyes scream, saber, pain. Eyes scream, saber, pain. Eyes scream, saber, pain. Ben! No! Luke cries out again, consumed with grief. I see everything at once, the blaster in his hand, Solo taking out stormtroopers, Leia calling his name. The troopers advance, guns raised. If Luke stays, he will die. If he fights, he will die. I didn't let that happen before, and I won't let it happen now. I whisper the words I spoke when he was a child, words I know that only he will hear. Run, Luke, run! And he does. Luke Skywalker runs and doesn't stop, and I am at his side. From this moment, he will never be alone. He will learn and he will grow, and I will guide him every step of the way. We have all the time we need. Well, until you get stuck in the netherworld of the Force, because apparently being a Force Ghost is a temporary thing, unless you pull a Sith, in which case you can just stick around for pretty much ever.
Basically until Heir to the Empire, which is when Luke becomes not the last of the old Jedi, but first of the new Jedi.
Yeah, that was a good send-off for him. Great job, Timothy Zahn. As if he needs to hear more of that. Seriously, it's like Timothy Zahn's been hearing nothing but great jobs since the 90s. Not that I'd say that to his face. There... Oh, right. There is Another, by Gary D. Schmidt. Yoda stood at the door of his hut, watching the straight streaks of sunlight tear apart the gathered gray of the sky. He turned and looked inside, then back to the sky. It was time, probably past time. The rains had ended more than half an orbit before. Soon the sun would bear down upon Dagobah, and the uplands would be too hot for even a small one like himself to bear. He had maybe a few days, maybe less. Missed. He sighed. One of the two seasons on Dagobah, the dry was the one he preferred. The view from the uplands reminded him of a time and place from long ago. But by now the lower lands would have drained some, and the trees would have begun to emerge from their watery covering. It would soon be time to plant in the soggy reaches. Yes. Okay, so I'm reminded of Yoda's cameo in the Galaxy of Fear book set and on Dagobah, and we still haven't figured out why he didn't help out the cannibals. Remember, like the crew of the crash survey ship who resorted to cannibalism.
Oh.
Yoda had plenty of food. Why didn't he help out there?
Maybe the same. Well, maybe it's because he was just a watcher, an observer, just like when the clone of Galen visited Dagobah.
You know, watching and observing tends to cause a... Oh, I'm not going to say that. I am not going to be that big a hypocrite. Anyway, moving on. And the trees would have begun to emerge from their watery covering. It would soon be a time to plant in the soggy reaches. Planting was a bother, but even a Jedi Master needs to eat. They need some snakes or something. Look at your teeth, man. You are a carnivore.
Yeah, Yoda should start eating that stuff because isn't a Jedi supposed to feed off the living force?
But Tish. He looked back inside his head again. Age, he thought, has its advantages. More and more want the young, but less and less need the old. He had felt this listening over the last 2 centuries. He had sloughed off almost everything now, except those
Actually, now I'm thinking of this between Yoda and Luke. Yoda comes back with a sack. What is that? Luke says. Yoda says, lunch it is. Yoda starts eating bugs, and Luke says, how can you eat that stuff? Jedi feed off the living force? Hmm? Luke says, but that's not what Ben taught me.
Luke, you trained with Ben for... nuts. We'll never get a clear answer about how much time the events of A New Hope take place over. We'll never get a clear answer. His cane, begun as a joke, really, to convince the young Padawans that he was only an old and feeble Jedi. He would hobble to the class, and they would make way for their limping master. Then he would cast his cane aside and slice open the air with his lightsaber, and they would gasp to see such an old and tired master ripple with the strength and quickness of the Force. And when his lesson was over, he would take up his cane again and stump away.
Yeah, or what about using your cane as a weapon? I mean, I know an old Jedi Master that used a walking stick, and he used that as a weapon, and he was very skilled with it, until his apprentice fell to the dark side and killed him.
Happens a lot, doesn't it? Also, to be fair, that stick was imbued with the Force. Like, yeah, if your stick is lightsaber proof, that's an exception. And when his lesson was over, he would take up his cane again and stump away. But they were not sure what to believe. Did he need the cane or not? Now they would believe it. If any of them were still here instead of, dead. I made myself sad. And the blanket on his bed, made from his old friend's cook. How long it had been since Qui-Gon Jinn had become one of the Force? So...
Wait. Yoda keeps Qui-Gon's cloak? Same way Ulic Qel-Droma kept his old master's cloak?
Kind of creepy when you think about it. I mean, that's like the clothes they died in, man. How much did you have to wash it to get the corpse stink out? How long it had been since Qui-Gon Jinn had become one of the Force. He went back inside and fingered the ham. Sometimes one strong in the Force might leave a hint of himself in what he had owned. But now, so many years had gone by. Yoda had felt the hint once, felt it no longer. Yeah, psychometry only allows you to access recent history.
Really? Because Cal used psychometry on the Zepho tombs, and the Zepho lived, since the galaxy was first created.
Huh. That's not how Quinlan Voss does it. Well, I guess the Kefar are different. And Gal's just really, really powerful when it comes to that specific ability.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that the Zepho lived 1 billion BBY.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Citation needed.
That's just a guess. That's actually just a guess. Between 1 billion and 30,000 BBY.
Citation needed on that too.
After the galaxy was created, before the Rakata ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years.
I'm sure someone else has done the math. We'll check. Yoda had felt the hint once, he felt it no longer. And on the shelf above the bed, Obi-Wan's small pot, rounded by his own hands. Yoda reached up and called the pot to him. Its handle was cold. That was all, really. Once he had treasured his lightsaber, but that was lost in the ruins of the Senate chamber. Oh yeah, and then Mas Amedda destroyed it. But Yoda must have made a new one because, Grogu, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, Yoda probably built a new one. Yoda probably built a new one.
Not to mention the orange Shoto that Pick uses, if you accept that stuff as canon.
I'd say that was Pick's lightsaber.
Oh no, you see, Pick, he usually uses a Sith dagger. He stole that lightsaber from Q-Ron, who was given it by Yoda, and that's why Q-Ron felt comfortable giving Morgan Katarn his original lightsaber because he had a new one now. I don't know where Yoda got it. Maybe he's just got a collection of Shotos. That would explain why he has a yellow one in the Phantom Menace comics.
Okay, yeah, let's just say that lightsaber started with Yoda and ended with Pick.
Yep. Interestingly enough, it having once belonged to Yoda is a reason why Luke Skywalker actually sent a team to retrieve it. But they never found anything. Let that be a lesson, Kyle. Take a cue from Revan and always loot the bodies.
That's Revan's thing. Don't step on Revan's thing.
Wait, so Mitra isn't allowed to do it either?
Okay, Revan and Mitra's thing. Don't step on Revan or Mitra's thing. Or the Hero of Tython's thing. Or, okay, you know what? Don't step on the Old Republic. Don't mess with the Old Republic.
Yep. Well, I suppose the Spacers from Galaxy could do it too. Moving on.
Galaxies is messing with the Old Republic.
Yeah.
That's why Star Wars The Old Republic came. That's why Star Wars The Old Republic came. To teach Galaxies, don't mess with the Old Republic.
Yeah, I can buy that. He regretted that. It would have pleased him to have put the weapon into young Skywalker's hands. He imagined her feeling its weight, and then suddenly she would be surprised at the beam that leapt out. Yep, her. Yoda wanted to train Leia, let's just get that one out of the way.
And let me think, who actually did train Leia? Luke.
So I guess that makes Leia Yoda's Padawan-in-law? Ha! Bet you didn't get that reference.
I think more Grand Padawan, actually. Since Yoda trained Luke, Luke trained Leia.
Hey, let's not use Tumblr terms. Moving on. Well, Tumblr and AO3, they're basically the same website at this point. He imagined her feeling its weight, and then suddenly she would be surprised at the beam that leapt out, just like Luke. But she knew nothing of the Force and its ways. She had had no one to teach her. Well, whose fault is that? You sent Obi-Wan with Luke, and you hung out here all alone. That, thought Yoda, was probably a mistake. Still, he smiled. If the old needed less and less in this physical world, perhaps it was because they dwelled so much in the world of memory and the world of what might have been. There was little he loved to dwell upon more than the thought of young Skywalker coming into herself, learning of the powers that lay deep within her, and perhaps bringing to the galaxy a new age that she could not even hope to imagine. But how could she? Who was she? She did not know. It had been so many orbits since he had been a master to a Padawan. But sometimes he wished. The hut was growing warm. It was time to pack what little there was to pack and to move downward and away from the sun's hot breath. It did not take long.
Sorry, this is completely off topic. Actually, I'll discuss it later. You know what?
It's fine. Can you hold off for 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
He stuffed what he had into a sack. Pouch of seeds gathered over the years, then the blanket, then the pot on top of that. He picked up his cane and stood at the door a moment, looking one last time at the hut. He would not save for 8 orbits, and then he closed his eyes and reached out to check for the droids that had once searched so piteously for him. He still checked whenever he left the hut, but it had been a very long time since the last droid had slipped past. Perhaps the Empire thought he was long dead and had ceased searching, or more likely the Empire did not even care. So unimportant one ancient Jedi Master had become. He sighed again. Maybe the Empire was right about how unimportant he had become, that was. He started down toward the lowlands. Already many of the trees had leafed out, even though some still stood with their feet in the green or thick water. But they wouldn't be standing in water for long. Yoda could see the water receding under the sun's glare with something afraid of the light. Soon the lowlands would be all marshy swamp again, and he would plant the last season's seeds. Then, before the sun began its long journey away, they would sprout. The gray clouds would come back and hold in the planet's humid air, and the sprouts would grow and flower and yield their fruit before a quarter orbit had passed. And by then the sun would be far enough away that the rains would plunge down again, and the floods begin their inundation, and Yoda would trudge back to the uplands, carting behind him the food for the long season. He could hear the voices of his Padawans from long ago. What is it like to live the life of a Jedi Master, they would ask. If only they could see him now, he thought. He brushed his hand across his eyes. If only they could. But there are worse things than Dagobah. For most of the day, he trudged down toward the lowlands, the sand and rock beneath him growing warmer and warmer until he came to the edge of the planetary floods, where the water had barely sunk beneath the surface. Then he felt something on the very edge of his reach, and he was out in the open. This is what comes of not keeping your mind on where you are and what you are doing.
Yeah, actually, I think Yoda's situation right now is way more believable than the fact that Yoda was a youngling.
Well, everyone starts out as a youngling.
Yeah, but everyone who is trained by very old Master Yoda, and Yoda mentions his time as a youngling. Wait, you were a youngling? Wait, you were a youngling? How long ago was that?
This is what comes of not keeping your mind on where you are and what you are doing. Thumping along with his cane, he headed toward the shelter of 3 upended rocks that might survive a blast, maybe 2. Nearly 900 years, and still he wanted more time. Foolish, Yoda thought. But if he had more time, he would wish that he could have trained one more Padawan. If only he'd had the time to train her. I'm surprised he's not reacting like, one Imperial Pro droid. This is not how Yoda dies. I mean, it would be kind of dumb if he did.
Yeah.
He reached the rocks, and then he stopped. He felt it again. It wasn't a droid, nor was it one of the Empire's ships. He reached out again. It wasn't even for him. And then it shifted, and it was for him. That old and familiar thrum the Force carried on its back, a steady vibration, calm, not the calm of a still night, but the calm of the sea that rose and fell with sureness and ease. It was Obi-Wan. Yoda leaned against the stones and smiled. Their exile had been too long and too lonely, but had the two of them remained together, the Empire would surely have found them. And there was the other Skywalker to watch over, impetuous, headstrong, unruly, and attentive. He needed Obi-Wan's eye on him, unlike the other, whose strength and will and clarity showed all the markings of a great Jedi.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh, come on. Let's see. Impetuous, headstrong, unruly, inattentive. Definitely not things that describe Leia at all. Yeah, Leia and Luke have more in common than most people in the Star Wars universe are willing to admit. Most characters.
Wait, you promised me Jedi, but But then I thought about it. All the Jedi are dead. Not all. 2 new Jedi have risen, Luke and Leia. Really interesting. Since Luke is going to be hard to... Well, here's the plan. You and your Imperials go get Leia, and I'll stay here and contact Luke through the Force. Also, yeah, that's a perfect plan.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.